right, everyone, this is weird, very weird, because I am doing this live stream from home, and I'm having nothing but troubles. So please let me know if you can hear the audio, because I can't tell for sure if you can hear me or not at home. So I'm it's a weird setup here, but in the meantime, without any further ado, I know some people are going to be excited to see tonight. Oh, you can, but I'm a little quiet. All right, let me see if I can figure that out. All right. So good start. Now I know some people are going to be very excited because tonight I am being joined by a special guest, and it is not Jeffrey Pisito. So in just a second here, we're going to switch over to our two-camera system, and you are going to get to see my special guest tonight, the one, the only, the very much beloved. It is Mr. Will Kemp. Welcome to the stream, Will. How are you?
Good. Am I live? I
You
can't
should
tell.
be. You should be live now, yes. There's about a 10-second delay between what you and I say and what the people watching out there in the internets can see and hear. Now,
I
they tell
see.
me that they can hear me. I'm not quite sure if they can hear you or not. So, for those of you in the chat watching along at home, please let us know. Can you hear Will speaking as well?
Hello. Can you hear me? Jason could hear me, but
Yeah, I can hear Will,
who knows?
and what with the delay, it's hard to know for sure whether or not the only chance I get to watch this live and Will's on. Yay. Okay, so that's a good comment. They can see you, but
Okay.
let me know if people can
I
hear you. And then
apologize for that.
you apologize for, don't apologize. It took great effort for me to get you here. So,
I
oh, they
am
say
much
that you're
louder.
louder than me. Okay, interesting. Well, let me see what I can do to figure this out for me. Um, where else am I showing up here? Let's see. Maybe I could turn it up a bit. All right, people, does that help at all? I don't know if I'm only turning up me or if I'm turning up Will. So let me know if that got better. And we'll take a few seconds to find out.
Hello, hello. Check, check, check.
Check, check,
Doing
check.
the same dance.
Yeah, we're doing this thing. This crazy trying to get the audio to work thing. Let us know in the chat if you can hear us better now. Hopefully, I'm not going to be blowing out Will's eardrums yelling into him.
I need to speak. Will is. Oh,
Oh,
Yan says Will is fine.
yeah, Will's fine. Okay.
That's the nicest thing Yan has ever said to me.
Wow, milestone tonight. Yay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me see here. I think I can turn mine up a little bit more then. I will crank this up a bit and see if that helps. Actually lower his. Oh, savage. All right.
Oh boy.
There you go. I'll even take you serious and lower his a little bit. There we go.
All right. So what are we talking about tonight?
Well, I don't know, Will. First of all, I'm excited to have you on the stream
Thank
tonight.
you.
Can you verify for me? Because I don't actually know. Have you done any public speaking regarding Genesis, done any other live streams that maybe I missed in the time since Haunted Castle Gaming shut down? Or is this your first time back talking Genesis on the internet?
So the last thing I did for Genesis in the in between times was I ran a sort of a farewell free will sort of event where I kind of had some stuff that I had sort of collected over the last little bit of Genesis, and I wanted to give out as much as I could back to people. So I ran an event using um, Coliseum of Fate at that time, and did a whole sort of live stream, talked over it, talked about strategy. My friend Sid Williams was on. We had a few other guests on at different times, and yeah, it was a great time. We had about, I think we ended up getting 16 people out to play, which I think was pretty good given the situation and everything. But no, I haven't done any streams or anything since then, or since exploring the libraries ended. So
Okay. So how does it feel to be back on the internet on a Monday night talking about Genesis?
it's a little, yeah, it's a little strange, a little bit like kind of like sort of feels familiar, but As we know, things are different this time around, but
Yeah.
it feels good to be back and to finally get in front of hopefully some people if they have questions and want to talk through chat. That'd be great. And yeah, I'm excited to see where things are headed and where things are going. Right.
It probably also feels good that right now at this very moment, while you're live on the internet, there's a little name bar above your face that says Will Kemp. And then if I squint really close, I can see that it says Design Team Member, Genesis Battle of Champions. So it's official there on the internet with the credits and everything that you're part of the team now, my friend. Got your first paycheck and everything. So you're like super legit game designer now. So that's gotta feel nice
That
too, right?
yeah. So that is yeah. That is a very good feeling. To have official designer for a card game that I've loved for 5 years now, um, and to be part of the next sort of phase of Genesis is really exciting for me to take what I have learned from those previously and what I've gathered from those who were doing it before me, and appreciating all the stuff that they've done, and appreciating their perspectives, and just sort of learning from them in how they did things and how I interacted with them, and now having a chance to kind of try my own hand at design and being involved as an official person. Because whether or not people know, like I was involved a lot behind the scenes because I was one of the, not a official employee type of person, but one of the fans that was very close inside of the sort of, if you want to call it the inner circle or whatever. Um, but now to be an official official design team member of Genesis with Edge of Exile, and going forward designing and creating the next, um, um, yeah, the next part of the next journey of Genesis's life is, yeah, it's been very interesting so far and very exciting.
Good. I love to hear it. I don't really want to talk a lot tonight about the set after Invasions, but I will say right off the bat that it's been really fun the first few weeks where we've been collaborating together. And when I say we, I mean the whole team. So yourself, JC, Janice, Jeff, and myself. The weekly staff meetings that we have where we talk about ideas and brainstorming and
Right.
where the lore can go, where the gameplay can go, things that maybe got suggested in the past that couldn't get approved that maybe now we want to explore. It's been really fun and exciting because I didn't realize that I guess there had been a significant amount of good ideas that maybe didn't quite get through the design process that we have some freedom to look at now, like ideas that you had, for example, in the past. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how the game's going to take shape in the future because I think we have a really good team here to start with.
Hmm. Yeah, there's definitely space for more creativity and more sort of less sort of top down as far as like where the design is going. Like Genesis, up to this point, there was a defined story, there's defined lore um, that the team was working towards, and they were doing and adding cards to fit that lore, and based upon you know where the team was taking it and where Sid was taking it. Um, we That's where the game was going. Now there's definitely a chance to grow and a chance to look and reflect on where things have been, and look at, do we want to make some changes to make the game a little more tactical, make the game a little more fluid as far as like how it gets played, maybe a little bit easier to understand, maybe clean up some language so that more people can begin to play the game and pick up the game. The easier and the more momentum there is when it's easier to learn. Maybe the design looks a little bit more fresh or a little bit more modern. Um, some of those things you're not always going to get everybody to like, and some of those the changes may be questioned. But I think the people who end up playing invasions and getting invasions, and the people who come into Genesis going forward, are going to see. I mean, I hope they're going to see a that tactical gameplay that was really, really unique. Um, the ability to play to the board and play against somebody and have each turn and each decision of where you move to be important, and
Mhm.
then also that same idea where the resources you have up front, but as the game goes on, you're getting weaker and weaker, and your choices you make have a bigger and bigger impact. I think those things are fantastic design pieces that have been there from the beginning, and where we go with them, we have a good foundation of what has worked and what hasn't, and now we have the ability to really take the game to wherever we want, right? So
Mhm. Yeah, I'm excited. It's a great time to be a Genesis fan and to be somebody involved with the Genesis game, I think. I There's so much cool stuff going on behind the scenes, so much work going on right now. What with us already starting to dip our toes into the set that's temporarily codenamed Metamorphosis, that's going to come after. So we're already working on
nice,
some cool card design and stuff like that. Then I've been reaching out to a lot of stores in regards to some product that we still have from the old company, some Origins and Chilara Second Edition product that we're trying to offer great discounts to get some stores playing again ahead of the next set Invasion coming out. That's been exciting. I've started talking to wholesale distributors in Canada, making some
hmm
progress there. That's exciting. I'm going to be probably this coming week reaching out to US wholesalers and just starting discussions there as well because we want to make sure that when Invasions releases later this year, we want to make sure it's a worldwide release or as close to it as we can, where whatever
hmm
countries have people that have been supporting it before, they'll be able to get the product again. So lots of cool things going on, lots of eye-opening stuff behind the scenes that as a local game store owner, there's a lot of extra steps involved in making and releasing a game that I didn't know before either. So it's fun to explore these new challenges. And hey,
nice.
look, it's JC in the chat. Hey, JC, our other design team member, who obviously is a big fan of Will based on the comment in the chat there. So yeah,
Yeah,
lots of cool things going on. Our chief design
yeah.
officer has absconded and left the country for a little while, so we're running this show without him for a little bit. But that's okay because we made him do a lot of artwork while he was traveling. So lots of exciting progress being made there. In fact, some things for the people watching at home that might not know is we've started picking out which cards artworks are going to get featured on the booster packs for Invasion. Because now we're doing little things like that. We're designing what the actual booster boxes will look like with the art on the outside of the boxes. And we're designing our booster packs, which of course are going to look really stunning with this new set because now they're going to have the new logo and the new packaging of the booster packs will reflect the updated and what I think is cleaner look of the cards moving forward. So that's pretty exciting. Um, yeah, there's just lots of so many cool little things going on at once. And here's something cool too. Um, just on Saturday night, we've been playing Genesis up here at our store in Midland, north of Exile Games. And this past
Nice.
Saturday night, we had 12 people out playing Genesis, and we were missing
Wow.
3 or 4 of our regulars who didn't come out. So like we had 4 new people come out to play for the first time. Plus, we had 8 of our regulars there, and it was a really hopping, excited vibe. The new players who have just discovered Genesis, I personally taught a table of 3 of them how to play. They got really excited about it. I gave them all the free demo decks that
The
stores
demo
used
deck.
to get
Yep.
for free. Which
Nice.
how many cards are in those decks? I think it's 35, right? Or 40.
40 or 35. 40, I
Yeah,
think.
something like that.
At
It's not a
35
full
most.
deck, but
No.
I gave all 3 of them those, and then they wound up all of them were buying booster packs later on, and started to that night while they're in the store trying to update their decks to get them into full size 50 card decks, which was a really cool
Nice.
feeling. And I've
Yeah,
said this,
that's always been a really cool thing with those demo decks, right? Because like
yeah,
when we were doing shows and we were doing demos back, this is a while back. Yeah, they were only 40 cards, but it was it wasn't really like a forced. You had to kind of buy booster packs, but if you did, you could always there was always something in the booster pack that you could throw into that deck because it's just sort of a shell, right? That sort of
yeah,
works. It works together. It works, side by side with the other demo deck. But if you start adding some cards in, you can quickly begin to really tweak how the decks work, and you can see how the game develops once the bigger card pool comes in. So that's really cool. The 12 people is a lot too.
Yeah, I was
So
really happy with it. And I can honestly say still that I don't recall ever teaching someone how to play Genesis and they didn't wind up really loving it. And like
right,
that's a really cool. Now I know it's a niche thing because I'm really excited about it in general. So when someone's excited about a game and teaching other people, it's easier, right? So,
yes,
but it's still a cool thing to say that like I've taught a lot of people, probably 50 or 60, just myself one on one over time. And like so many of those people, they love it. They come back. Some of them are locals to my store and who turned into regulars. Some of them turned into regulars at other stores. And like I love it. It gives me so much pride when I can share this game that's a hobby that I love with people. And by the end of the night, they're grabbing packs and they're like, "We'll be back next Saturday. This is amazing." And then like friendships were made because you know personally a few of our regulars up here. You know Marcus and Aaron and people like that
yeah,
who really love the game. And like when I closed the store because this week Janice is on holidays and she's out of town, so I'm working 12, 13 hours a day. When I closed the store at 8:30, one of our Genesis regulars offered to give me a ride home, so she stuck around with her son for a bit. And after 15 minutes of me shutting down the ice cream machine, shutting down the coffee machine, everything, we lock up the doors, turn out the lights, we walk outside, and 7 Genesis players were standing outside on my deck in front of my store, still talking about the games they had played tonight. And it was 15 minutes later, and I was like, "Oh my
right,
God, this is insane!" Like the store's closed, the lights are out, and they're standing on the deck outside, just sitting around talking because they didn't want to go home because they'd had so much fun playing Genesis. And I'm like, there's not many games out there where I've seen that personally happen. Where like I've been to a lot of F&Ms where people had a great time and then they stood around talking
right.
at the end of the night, not wanting to go home. But there's not a lot of games out there that can do that, where you'll come out, you'll hang out, you'll play games all night, and then when the store closes, you just stand outside in the cold and keep talking. So I was really excited about that. It's very cool to see people get so passionate about it.
The game has a lot to it. There's a lot, like, it is a complex game where just playing the game you begin to see how the game gets, like how you can get better or how you get stronger at the game, kind of like chess. It doesn't necessarily have like the openings or like the memorization of chess, but it has a level of tactile, you know, the realizations of, oh, if I hadn't moved that character that way, or if I had attacked this time first and not this one first, it would have caused you to maybe answer this or do something differently. And there is a lot of discussion just in the movement of pieces and where you move and what you attack and when you attack.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, outside of other games where you turn the cards and you say you're attacking, and there's sort of there's meta conversations. There's, oh, I really like how you put these cards together. There's a lot more conversation around the movement and how the board really affects the game, or how quickly a game can escape you, like, or you're in a losing position, or how you can win back that position with the right sequence of cards. Um,
Yeah, because there's been a lot of games where I thought I was down and out, and something surprising happens, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, they're almost out of aura, and you get back into a game that you thought you were dead for sure.
oh yeah, there's countless times where I thought I was in a good position, but they just had, they had an energy card and no aura left. I'm like, okay, well, if I can dodge, if this can survive, then I should be able to, um, make this happen. So I go in for an attack, and they have the right card to make sure that take care of that. And now we're back on an even playing field, and I'm looking at my hand, being like, well, I don't have anything else to go off of. So, I went from such a strong position to now being on the back on my heels, and that can change really quickly in Genesis too. So,
Hmm. So what right now are you excited about for Invasions? We can talk about that because a lot of it's been spoiled. What are your thoughts about the next set coming out?
invasions, and now that I can say that I've like, so I knew a lot about invasions before because I was helping out in the back end, testing stuff and reviewing, text and designs of where things are going to be looking. And at the very near the very end of the Haunted Castle days, I was part of the design team and being inside of meetings and looking at the direction of cards and how they are going to affect things. And my focus was always very much I believe Genesis can be a very competitive, strong competitive game when it needs to be, and can also be a very casual, fun, laid back game. And those are two different sets of cards that work together, so you can have very fun days of just playing with cards that may not be the optimal card or may not be the strongest card. But if you want to go to that next level of a competitive style gameplay, Genesis has always been, in my mind, one that you can, because of the decision making, the movement, and how things interact. There's always been a great potential to be a very fun to watch competitive game.
Yeah.
Um, so with Invasions, what I'm most excited about for Invasions and it coming out is, let alone all the work that's been done for Invasions, and appreciating the people who did all that work and have made the artwork, the cards, the text, how they interact, how the set was designed, how that, the layout of all those things. But it's just the sheer amount of potential strength in the cards, where I believe we are going to see an actual change in how the game is played.
Oh
We're
yeah.
not going to be we're not going to be relying on bolt shot tsunamis. They'll still be there. The decks will still run those things, but there is a lot of power in Bellum. There's a lot of power in Chaos, and Phage was going to see a real unique shift to how Phage is being run, and Invasions brings a lot of different deck designs as well as approaches, and I'm really glad that, for a time there we weren't really sure what was going to happen, if we were going to actually get to see this potential. But I'm glad that we are going to see Invasions come out and see how Genesis, is changing, and how the landscape's not going to be just, Nubia burn, Idris big spells, Kun, you know, come in and burn you down with like bolt shots and stuff. Um, there's going to be a lot of different and new styles of decks.
Yeah. I'm excited too. Obviously when Haunted Castle Gaming announced out of the blue that things were going to be stopping, just like everybody else out there, I was so disappointed. Partly because as a store we had already pre-ordered Invasion, right? I I'm I'm certainly not the biggest fan out there, but I'm a really big Genesis fan. And I was like
Right.
I was already committed money wise, and a lot of my effort was in promoting the game and trying to get people out to play. And I was devastated. So the fact that it's actually all coming together, and in another few months, Invasion is going to be out in stores everywhere, and people are going to be able to play it, is something just thrilled about. That will eventually get back on track and get people playing more than ever.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of fun in the set. There's a lot of, very there's a lot of attention to some of the holes and some of the things that were missing
Mhm.
in the previous sets. So building up certain colors that may have been a little bit weaker, pulling back on some colors that were a little bit stronger. There's a lot, and there's some very, yeah, the next set with Invasions, and then the next meta, whatever you want to call that,
Mhm.
for Genesis is going to be really fun to see what sort of floats to the top.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm already daydreaming about in the fall of 2024 that we might be getting a world championship out again. I'm already daydreaming about that, about how great it'll feel with invasions and code name metamorphosis, whatever that winds up being. It'll just be exciting, and hopefully next year will be the first year that we get two sets released as well, if all goes well. So like
Hmm.
more Genesis all year long for people to play with. Because as a player, what was it like for you, taking aside all the game design and behind the scenes work that you did? But as a player, what did you feel like when there's only ever one at most sets a year? Like it felt for me like it took forever for more cards to come out, and I was always dying for it. Is that how it was for you?
Um, there were those time periods where like you would show up to an event or whatever, be like, okay, we're playing with the same cards, same things, but um, I think it was a lot. It depends on the community that you're going out to and playing with, because like the community that I was playing with during that, the one set a year, we were always trying to push each other and looking at, how do we change this deck or what do we try here. Some people in our community would try something, completely abstract from what the norm is, and we would sort of break it down, and they would come back or go away, change a few things, and come back and try it again.
Yeah.
um so I mean, I didn't mind as much because I was buying in a bunch anyways. So it's only one set a year, so I could buy a little bit more.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, there was a certain cadence that wasn't present when you only had one set a year, and there were times where it would feel like it was dragging, or we would play some Genesis and then we'd play something else because the Genesis felt the same. So having two sets of years is going to be um, fantastic, I think, because it's going to be it gives you something to look forward to in the middle. The other side, though, like just off what I'm thinking about this now, is that there is a lot still to be discovered with the old cards.
Yeah.
Um, like there are like the meta is not solved. There is definitely the strongest decks, but there is so much, and I think this is when it comes to like competitive versus casual. Competitive is pretty much determined, right? We know that your 7 chi Bellum card is bolt shot. You're not going to be playing anything else unless you're doing something very specific. Um, we know that your 5 chi Axon card is probably going to be Tsunami or Alim because they're just the best in that spot.
Yeah.
Maybe Warp Strike, depending on, again, what are you trying to do. Um, but when you go casually, there's a lot of cards that don't get used competitively, and there's a lot of things you can do just in a casual setting where you can be like, oh, I never thought about this card or that card and how they interact. Um, I never did get to play Joey's sort of dungeon crawler. I really liked the
Oh.
concept, um, because there's a lot of things, yeah, like the grid and the surprise factors or the encounters of those types of dungeon crawlers works really well with a tactic, like with a grid system.
Hmm.
I didn't play it directly myself, but I mean, who knows where that it lines up or what's down the road. But um, I mean,
There's
there's a
there's a
lot
good
of,
chance there'll be some of that in the future again. I'm sure of it. It was a
yeah.
really cool idea, you know?
Well, it made a lot of sense, and I know a lot of people did really enjoy it. So I'm not shocked for you to hear you say that that would be a potential thing down the road, right? So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think overall, more than one set a year is just sort of what people want. It's the expected part.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I think it's going to make it a lot easier to get new stores involved too, to be honest, because I think one of the things that might have held some stores
that's
back
true.
was if there's only one set a year, like I mean, that product could theoretically get stale on the shelf or whatever and not move. But if there's more than one set a year, then people keep coming back because there's more stuff to come back and the meta changes a bit. And I think definitely it'll be an easier sell for us to get more stores to want to carry it because there'd be more product coming out. I think we went through a great time under the old previous management of laying the groundwork, and there's a
Right.
great path towards future success thanks to them. Thank you. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There, like, you have to appreciate, um, now that we were removed from all the, some of the ifs and buts and whatever, what the things that happened, things that were said, things that were done. Like now, as we move away from that, there you have to appreciate that the game exists where it is because of those people who were involved and everyone who was involved.
Yeah.
And now that the opportunity is here, on sort of Edge of Exile's shoulders to sort of take this game to the next level or take this game to the next phase, um, there's a lot that's happening. So yes, there may not be all the spoilers or all the the championships and all the circuits and all these things that we had, but that's basically the momentum has to rebuild,
Yeah.
right? You're going through. a lot of different things on the behind the scenes, trying to figure out how to get things out, how to get them out effectively, um, all that sort of logistical stuff that is now being taken care of at behind the scenes. So that it is sort of like a I feel like it's kind of like a heads down. Let's get this invasions out. Let's get the next set out, and let's get that momentum going. Right.
Yeah, I think that is the mindset for sure. Just work hard right now and grind it out, and then once the next couple sets are out, then hopefully we'll be in a great spot to reintroduce organized play everywhere. Hopefully we'll have some physical incentives to send to stores, be it promo packs or something else to carry that on. And then
Right.
hopefully after that, things as the ball continues to roll, we get more things going on like regional championships, world championships, who knows what else. Miniseries on Netflix. I don't know wherever it leads us eventually, right? So
Sure. Sure.
some anime or something. Yeah,
Um. Yeah.
action
So
figures.
do we have anything to spoil tonight, or are we just sort of
No,
chatting
I
tonight?
I checked in with the design chief before he went AWOL, and he won't have anything for us to share this week or next week because next week I once again will have another special guest joining me. But then the week after, when he comes back, because he's all about the glory, he's very much a glory hog. He'll be here to show off some crazy artwork, and we'll all sing his praises and pay tribute to him as we should, right?
Sure.
So that's the plan there. I want to say hi to Mr. Alex 21 Alex who said hey in the chat a little while ago. I was waiting for a chance to shout out to him and to everybody else who's been watching tonight. And it's cool to see everybody here. Duelist, Sync, JD, Janice, Jan, John, everybody else who may have commented. It's great to see you all here tonight. I'm very excited to have my special guest Will here tonight. And I just want to at least once tonight throw out the opportunity into the chat there that if anyone has any questions
Yeah.
for Will, this is the first time that he's been available for public speaking in a while. So go ahead and
Sure.
ask the man some questions. You can tell by the backgrounds we're in separate rooms. He's not chained up against the wall. He's here of his own will. He can speak freely. So if anyone wants to ask him any questions, today's a good day to catch up with Will because I'm sure a lot of people,
Sure.
I'm sure a lot of Genesis fans have really, what's the best way to say this? Has really missed seeing your face on the internet, I guess. Because you guys were doing it every single week for so long, and then there was that long in between time, as you like to call it. So, you know, people probably missed you and just chained to the chair instead. He's on to us. That's it. Cut the feed. Cut the feed.
The fee- No, we're here. We're here. We're doing. We can say what we want, and we're happy to be here at this. So,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
been
I
really
mean,
good.
we were doing every week, and we had sometimes special guests on and different things. So, I mean, those things, there was, the momentum was different, right? Like right now, it's focusing on getting the business up and running, getting the things in place so that there is momentum either in progress of the game, but also momentum in like sales and numbers and outlooks and all those types of things that need to be in place so that Edge of Exile can feel comfortable keeping the game going, keeping the game moving, right? So
Yeah,
I think the one thing I want to stress is that um, I've seen it a couple different places. Like I still exist in the Discord. I'm just not really talking in the Discord right now because I'm just sort of listening. I'm reflecting on what's being said. I'm listening to the fan base, what they're discussing. I'm seeing what's being said, and those things resonate with me as well. And I understand there's maybe the cadence of information is different, or maybe how things are being presented is a little bit different. But I, if anything, if I can assure anybody anything, is that uh, progress is being made, and a lot of progress, as you even alluded to, behind the scenes progress is being made, and we are working towards getting that momentum going and really getting the game off the ground. And hopefully, with the changes we're making, we'll see that sort of iteration and evolution of what Genesis can be going forward. I think we have a question. Is that a question?
yeah. I was going to ask if you were able to see the chat there because it's one for you.
I am. So the question is: there a design concept you wanted to introduce to Genesis that didn't get through the OG design process, and can you talk about? I'm sure I can talk about a lot of different things.
Yeah,
um, so there are a number of design concepts that um, were presented in different forms. And Alex and I had many chats about the potential of how things could look if we were had if there was free reign to do things. What could we really do? And some of those things are his, and some of those things are mine, and some of those things are things that we talked about together. And so navigating how those concepts will come in is um, going to take time, just to make sure that you know we don't want to I don't want to, when we're having an open discussion or a previous discussion in the past, take a concept from somebody that I've talked to, and not recognizing that it's theirs or whatever. So that's sort of on me to sort of adjust and navigate how I handle that process. But some of the things that I um, look to bring in is looking at how can, if we have this grid system, some things that we don't look at is how the cards are played on the board, and how they, like right now we have, you can play a card from hand, a card can come from the subconscious. There are cards that you play to the board and then it does something right away. But we don't look at like if a card is being played face up or face down. We don't look at, does the card have a different effect on the board versus having a different effect from the hand? So where the card could be two different types of cards in one. Um, there are things we can look at for how little minions or like smaller creatures can work or could be stronger as a pack or as a group. We can look at larger creatures maybe taking up more space. We can have,
Oh, like being in more than one square? Is
sure,
that what you mean by that?
it could
That'd be
be,
neat.
yeah, you could have um, different ways of doing that, where either the card exists maybe on the axis point of squares,
Yeah.
so it takes up four squares,
You could do a
or
two-part card. I know Magic did that, where they had cards where it was two halves that like actually combined together.
yep, there's the idea of, yeah, you could have, you know the idea of two cards are separate entities, and then they can either fuse or become one entity, so they have a new set of abilities when they're on the same space. Or if they if they're, even if it's just like a fusion ability where you can take the two and they fuse them together, maybe their awarenesses are combined, their attacks are combined, or they change completely differently, and you have to replace that with a token card to represent the amalgamation of those summons. Um, there are different things with positioning too, where you can have, you know, the concept of, like, let's say something like formations, where if something's all in a line, or if something makes a shape, or um, different ways of doing tactical formations that give bonuses or whatever. There's a number of concepts that at least I have in the back of my head, or in my my design journal, like writing down different things. And um, I'm excited to introduce or talk about those concepts slowly, not all right away. We're not going to just like bring in a whole bunch of new things, but
Well,
um,
I think usually in most trading card games too, you want to introduce like maybe one cool new mechanic a set, right? So that maybe it's themed around wherever that set's located and it's less overwhelming for players. So if you, for example, if you right now had 10 great ideas and one was formation and one was this and one was that, like we would want to probably spread them out over time anyways. Otherwise, you'll feel like it's a whole different game.
right, and that's the one thing that's uh, yes, the cards have changed, the symbol has changed. The way the packs or the boxes are going to be coming out, right? All those different things are changing. There's a lot of change happening. Some of that is just natural change that has to happen because there's a new ownership. There's a new change, so that there needs to be new things brought up so that new ownership has, or feels that they have ownership. So we're also very cognizant of how much change is happening, and how much change is too much change. So um, as much as there's all these things that we can introduce, I think, as you mentioned, Jason, it's important that we don't just completely change everything, or else people will be like, well, this is a completely different game. We're building off of what's there, and
Yeah.
we're heading into a new direction. But we're still building off the same foundation.
Yeah, we're definitely like anything we do, I think honors the original concept of the game. Like and
Yeah,
just builds off of it. So, and there's some really great ideas that don't both work together too. So like it's sometimes it's a choice of which way do we want to go? Because if we do this, well, this won't really work anymore. So our options are very open and there's a lot of great ideas floating around in the design team. And yeah, it's really cool because wherever it goes over the next few years, I think it's going to be a very exciting journey for the Genesis fans who were original ones, maybe ones who are just getting involved now, and for Genesis fans in the future who will only see the future stuff that we do.
right.
I think everyone's going to appreciate it and enjoy the journey.
And also to that point, there's also things that, gameplay wise and mechanically, as far as like how the game's played and things as well, that sometimes there are conflicts there that maybe weren't allowed to be approached or weren't allowed to at least be discussed. So some of those things are even being discussed and talked about as far as, well, since we are making some changes, do we want to look at X, Y, and Z things that are going on in the game where we could tweak a few things, maybe make a rule change or maybe make a concept change that would actually alleviate a lot of the tension, a lot of the confusion that there was around some things like, let's say, like pillars or let's say like flying units. Um,
Yeah.
but so there's also those good changes happening in that direction too. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
there's actually, for people watching at home, there's a separate team being formed right now that's going to be reviewing all the rules going forward.
yes,
You'll probably, actually, you will probably be involved in that a little bit just because you've got a fair bit of good insight on issues that there are currently in the rules. Because mainly we're establishing a team of some people who were previously judges for Genesis in the old
mhm,
regime and people who were involved with creating the rules that we have now. We're building this team mainly because we're trying to future proof the rules because we
right,
anticipate 2 or 3 years from now, there will have been a lot of growth. There will be a lot of new players. The world championship, for example, would be bigger. And at that point, when you're getting more people out there, you really need the rules to be very clear and concise so that there's never any possible, well, I interpret it this way, I interpret it that way. You don't want that in any high stakes tournaments that we hope to be hosting in the future.
right.
So it's good that you mentioned that because we do have a separate team currently simultaneously beginning work on that, on refreshing the rules, which will make your life easier in the future too, I hope.
Hopefully, yeah, that's hopefully the goal. Always good to make sure the foundations are solid before you build on it. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So we're checking the cracks. We're going through the foundation. We're making sure that, you know, is there something that's limiting us in the original concepts of the game? Is there something that, you know, was brought to attention but may have been ignored? Was there something that, you know, a fresh set of eyes is now seeing and wanting to be like, oh, wait a second, why do we do this? Well, we do this because this is how this happened. This is how this happened. So that's how we got to this change. Um, but yes, we're ensuring the foundation of the game is good, and then we're building off of that foundation going forward.
Yeah. And that excites me too. I feel like we're taking the right time right now to go slow on some of these things and do them properly so that we won't regret it later on. So, like what you had said before, like there's actually a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. So, even if
Right.
for some people it might feel like progress is going slow right now, it's actually motoring along pretty good. We're getting multiple things done at once. So, I'm very excited about that. Anything else that you'd like to talk about tonight, Will? Anything you want to get off your chest? Anything like this an open forum for you for whatever you want to talk about?
Um. Yeah. I mean, I'm just at this point. I'm just like I said. It is very much uh, running through sort of let's ensure our foundation is good. Let's start building some new stuff when we have set time in between, so we can get a head start on those things. Because if we want to get to two sets, we're going to have to have a quicker cadence on things. So
Yeah.
um, as far as looking at getting the designs out there, I actually had a question. I'm not sure if it's something that has been discussed or I don't think we have discussed it directly, but the idea of Future League and what's happening with the people who are coming to the game wanting to help out or test things and develop things that way? Have those discussions been happening?
A little bit
Right.
informally, nothing official yet.
Right.
I think the thought process, to be honest with you, is we're probably going to have a couple people in my area up here in Midland do some play testing, which we haven't yet, but it's convenient because Jeff can come up and then like the three owners are all in one store involved with the play testing while it's going on. Um, what I think will happen, based on discussions I've had with Jeff and Janice, the other two owners, is I think what will happen is to keep it fair. If we do wind up proceeding with a future league where we have non-staff members playtesting cards and giving their feedback, we'll probably compensate them in that some way financially for their time. Because we would have to ask them to not well, we'd have to rule them out from eligibility for like a world championship that year or whatnot. Because if you work on cards for 6 months before the public and you fine tune all the interactions and figure everything out, it wouldn't really be fair to then unleash them in a world championship against people who maybe the most recent set of cards has only been on the market for 4 months, right? If they
Yeah,
have an
it's
extra six
really
months.
that's really interesting that you say that because that was it had been for a long time a kind of a sticky point, right? Because
Well, how did it work
um,
in the old company? Did
wh-
people who are in Future League get to play for the big prizes?
yeah,
Oh,
there
really?
was nothing holding the back.
Oh,
There
that's
was
interesting.
it was yeah, it was interesting because it was sort of, I mean, there was a lot of discussion around, if is there an advantage, is there not, is there you have control and potential to manipulate how cards turn out. Is that pushing cards into one direction, pushing not? So it was. I don't think there is a point of a specific card or a specific time point where like something was extra pushed or not. Like I think the in general, the people who were involved in Future League definitely balanced each other as far as like where things were pushed and where things weren't, and um, a lot of it was just catching combos that the design team either missed or didn't catch when they were designing the cards. Because I mean, when you're designing cards, it's hard to keep the whole card pool in your head as you design. That's really where the testing comes in, when you can start seeing how there's going to be interactions with those cards. But
Yeah.
it's interesting that you said that because that is something that I know people have had issue with in the past. Um, there has never been someone who has won the championship that was also in Future League, though. Like that, outside of maybe Steve O's first time,
Right.
but everyone, most of the champion winners weren't necessarily Future League testers as
Well, that's good to
like a
hear.
regular. So
That's good to hear.
maybe we
And
dodged a bullet there.
yeah, you might have, to be honest, because I, from the magic side of things,
Right.
because I used to be a magic judge, right? I know that people who are involved in R&D at Wizards of the Coast aren't allowed to compete in high stakes events.
Right.
And I think it's actually, I think it's not even just R&D, but I think for the most part, if you're a Wizards of the Coast employee in general, you're just not allowed to play in like the Pro Tour and Grand Prix or
That's
whatever they're
true.
called now.
Haunted Castle Gaming employees were not um, able to participate in any sort of prizing events. That is true.
Okay.
But the Future League was open to anybody and everybody. So you weren't officially a employee, you're just sort of a fan-based tester.
Right. But I assume that they probably worked kind of functionally like an R&D department, in so much as like
Yeah,
they're playtesting, looking for issues, right?
yeah,
So that
that's
was
true.
just my gut feeling was I probably wouldn't want people who get to work on the cards and have influence on the cards compete against people who didn't. So it'll be a drawback. So I don't think there'll be as much interest or demand for people wanting to be in future league with us because of the fact that like, yeah, we'll compensate you with some money for your time, but you're willingly giving up your chance to compete for a world championship for the good of the whole community in general for your time doing R&D with us. So it'll be
Right.
interesting to see. Hopefully we'll find
But you
some good
also
spirited
have people
people.
yeah, you also have people who are very into that type of testing, though, right? And
Mhm.
it kind of leads into Yan's question here with, will there be more rigorous testing, long form reports or official timetable for each test period? So I think along those lines, if what I foresee happening, yes, there would be more time for long form, more feedback, more time to actually dive into those interactions because my at least the vision that I have for Genesis is that it can be very competitive, very fun and interactive, and easy to watch, um, because the casual is also very easy to have. Right, the
Yeah.
I think in this game the competitive is very hard to maintain to get to a point where the game feels that you're on an equal playing field. There's fair play. There are options and the abilities to interact with all things happening. Whereas casual, do what you want, play how you want, you know, read the cards how you want. Um, I think in the past there's been a focus on the casual, which is not a bad thing. It's just that when the focus is on the casual and then you try to move it into a competitive, you have without sort of any ban list or restriction list, there is potential to have very broken, very one-sided, and very off-putting feelings within that competitive scene because of there isn't somebody watching how the competitive scene is developing.
Mhm. Yeah, I couldn't like I wouldn't have been able to answer Jan's question because will there be more rigorous testing than before? I don't know. You were the right guy to answer that. But I can say
Yes,
that
there will probably will be, yes.
I can say confidently though that we will take whatever time we feel it needs to be what's the right word, vetted properly, each card
Right.
and the set. Like we're not in the business of rushing product out and then regretting it later. We'd much rather take the time to do things right the first time and put out products that we're proud of. So I whatever it takes to do the job right is what we want to do, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm very excited for the future and to see how it goes with because like you say it's pretty easy to get a good casual group playing, but it'll be fun as we work towards cleaning up the rules and implementing higher stakes organized play in local game stores and building the competitive side as well, because I think for a game like ours to really succeed and reach its best potential, it needs to be able to satisfy both crowds. It needs to be a game that's fun to play casual with your friends, and it needs to have the ability there that if you want to really delve deep into it and try and maximize decks for competitiveness, that there needs to be some meat meat on the bone, so to speak, for that as well.
Right. And your competitive players are always going to seek that out very quickly, right? Whereas your casual players will just be like, oh, oh, that wiped my board. Okay, that's fun. We're just having fun. I'll play out some more things, do this, do that.
Mhm.
But
Well,
yeah.
Will, is there anything else that you'd like to discuss tonight before we call it a night?
Um, no, unless there's any last minute questions, but I don't. I have a question for Jason. If there is a new world's championship, are you looking to make it public or invite only?
It's a great question. Uh, I think what it would be is I kind of liked, at least for the next one, because I don't think we'll have a crazy amount of growth right away where it would be a huge spike in numbers. I'd kind of like for the next one to do it similar to the last, where a lot of local game stores will be involved with qualifying events, because then that kind of encourages people to travel from store to store. If you don't qualify in your own store, well, drive a half hour and go play at somebody else's store and try again and whatnot. Um, I don't know how many people qualified from each event last time. I feel like it was a high number though. Do you know how many qualified at each store, Will?
So the plan was to have 64 players, and there was eight. Yeah, there was 8 circuits.
So top eight would qualify. I think that's
Top
a little
eight
high to be
qualified,
honest.
and we ended up having 50 people because not every circuit had more than 8.
Yeah. So there's a couple little flaws with the system before, but
Yeah.
because we're not talking about doing it this winter, we're talking about doing it the following winter. There's plenty of time to build up some new communities, some new gaming hubs, and get more players trying to qualify. In a perfect world, I think I'd like to see something like store qualifiers, but maybe only the top four from each store qualifies. I think eight gets a little
Mm.
silly, because sometimes there's not even eight people at a store, and I like, where's the prestige in that, right? If you show up and you just automatically qualify. But that'll be a team decision. Decisions like that, I don't make by myself. Everything goes through the three owners, and we all vote, the three of us on it. So majority rules will decide things like that. But yeah, it'd definitely be easy for the public to qualify for. And in a perfect world, hopefully we'll have some side events for people who just want to show
Right.
up. Like maybe your son or daughter qualifies, and but you love playing too. You bring them to the world championship, and you can play in some side events, doing drafts or whatnot all day. That's what I'd like
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah. I think the future. I mean, those are future plans down the road too. So we'll have a better
Mhm.
idea once those things become the focus point, right? So,
Mhm.
all right.
Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight, asking some questions. I want to thank you, Will, for joining me tonight. It was really fun. I got to talk way more than I do with Jeff's on camera, so I appreciate that.
Well, yeah,
Usually he
that's for
just
sure.
talks over me, So it was fun getting to be an equal partner of the video tonight. And that's all we've got for now. But you want to tune in again next week, because I will once again be having another surprise guest on the stream that I'm sure a lot of people are going to love hearing from. Because wherever we drove Jeff to and left him in the woods, it's really far out. He hasn't made his way back yet. So that's awesome. In the meantime, everyone, thanks once again for tuning in. Thank you, Will, for being here. My name's Jason. It's been a blast. Take care. Stay safe out there. And we'll see you soon in the arena.